Discopath. Discopath. The time code you just saw is a lie. Because this movie is so boring. I had to shut it off and look at pictures of kittens for a while. You know, Discopath. This is the kind of softball concept that seems kind of hard to screw up, but here you go. I am very disappointed. Such Discopath, man. Discopath. That could be so much fun, but it is not. So we start in 1976 New York. I was not around in 1976, and I've spent very little time in New York. But the mid-70s costuming is really fun. And the New York accents, I've never heard New York accents like that, so either this is an area of New York I've never been in, or these are really, really bad New York accents. I'll have to ask my sister, she lived there for a while. So we have our Discopath, Dwayne, who's working the fryer at some little restaurant. When suddenly 3 guys walk in with a boombox. For those younger viewers who may be wondering what the hell I'm doing with my hand, well, you see, back in the day, we had to have we had portable music players called boomboxes, and they were literally this damn big. And you held them up on your shoulder like this. And that made music portable. Because you can't drag a turntable anywhere. And you could rip an 8-track player out of a car, but what are you going to do with that? So no, the big portable thing that took like 12D batteries, which are the really big ones. They walk into the restaurant or little cafe and start playing disco music. And our fryer boy, our Dwayne, our disco maniac, our discopath, he's frying, and the music starts immediately. The description of the movie reads something like, timid guy snaps when he hears disco music. Yeah, immediately. He stops what he's doing, and he gets right up in the camera's face looking at the boombox, wide-eyed. His face starts twitching. It's that overplayed. And he's like doing that at 3 guys who are just I guess they're lost in the music. And he burns the burgers and he gets fired. So he goes to a skate park, roller skates, where a girl sees this guy and is like, I am going to take that man home, dress him up in disco clothes, and take him out clubbing. Kind of reminds me of your typical anime hero, who is every woman in the entire world falls in love with this guy. And you can't figure out why. He's socially awkward, not even in the cute or charming, shy sense, just creepy. I mean, the guy... Come on, really? Anyway, so she damn near forcefully drags this guy to her home. And he's doing the creepy vibe. Even her friends are like, girl, between you and me, this guy is like super duper creepy. Like Discopath creepy. You probably shouldn't go out with a guy you just picked up in a park and is looking really creepy. Creepy. But she does anyway. So they go to a disco. And they get out on the dance floor, but he's suddenly drawn to the big speakers that are thump, 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 thump. And she is like, what the, you're supposed to be boogieing with me. And she goes and drags him, and he stabs her in the face with a knife. I'm just kidding. He stabs her in the wrist with a knife. A butcher knife. I don't know where the hell he got it. Did he have it in his work clothes pants pocket and he transferred it to the disco suit that she happened to have because her father gave it to her? Where did he get a butcher knife? Whatever, he stabs her in the wrist and then she runs downstairs. And this portion is actually kind of cool. The boogie and disco people at the boogie and discotheque place are on a dance floor that's pretty much a glass floor that has a bunch of colored lights set under the floor that shine up to make it all disco-y, right? So she runs out the back, down the stairs, and then hides in the crawl space that goes under the floor where all the lights are, so the maintenance area. Well, he follows her in there and crawls after her, and she's, no. And he grabs her hand, and he pulls it off. Because, I went to rub my eye, and I almost jammed a finger straight up my nose. Weird. I mean, she got stabbed in the wrist, but it didn't seem enough to just pull it straight off. And then I guess he kills her, and the camera pans up, and she's under the floor, and there's all these people dancing on top of her. It's actually an interesting visual. So props there. And the police say, oh, she was dead down there for an hour before any of the dancers noticed her. And no one heard her scream because the music was so loud. Okay, kind of neat. So our guy throws off his bloody clothes, goes to steals the, somehow he gets the, not just the wallet of the club owner, but his passport too. It's never established how he managed to get that. But he goes to the airport. There's like, one-way ticket to Quebec, please. And alright, so he gets on a plane, goes to Quebec. 4 years later. At this point, there is a flashback, I think, if I'm getting the chronology of the movie right, that shows that when Dwayne here, our disco murderer, was a boy, disco killed his father. Literally. His dad had I guess was inventing disco or something. He had a drum machine set up, and then he got electrocuted. And so I guess Dwayne now when he hears disco music, he goes insane and must kill people. Okay, I've heard worse motives. So he is in a girls' like Catholic school college, working as a janitor maintenance guy for 4 years. Never does anything, just hanging out, wears a hearing aid that blocks out music. Everyone thinks he's deaf because he's got a hearing aid, but apparently what it does is just mutes sound, so he mostly can't hear anything. Okay. So now we're in, it's 1980, and we're in Canada, and it's the weekend, and two of the schoolgirls decide to stay behind and play disco and make out. Well, even though he's got the sound-blocking hearing aid on, he hears the disco. So he goes in and butchers them with a 45. A record, 45, not a shoot, bang, bang gun, 45 record, small vinyl record, 45, like snaps it in half and starts slicing them with it. You don't get to see much, but eventually he decapitates both of them and stabbies them with a broken in half 45 record. Kind of cool. What else? So then he So there's two teachers there, one of which has a crush on our disco murderer. Again, for no good reason, because this guy is completely socially awkward, antisocial, is constantly giving you the creepy eyes. I don't know what, and she's like, I'll see you this weekend. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Did you see me wiggle in my butt? That was for you. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. It's like, what do you see in him? I'm not jealous. I know why I don't get this kind of attention. I'm just wondering why he is. It's not a, well, how come I'm not getting the attention when he... No, it's not one of that. I know my faults. I'm wondering why they don't see his. Maybe next time I'm craving attention, I'm just going to give people the creepy eyes. Where was I going with this? Oh, so the two schoolgirls are murdered, and one of the teachers is abducted. When does that happen? Oh, yeah, it just cuts to the Discopath murderer guy doing the whole Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs thing, you know, kind of dancing naked, and he's holding the two severed heads of the girls, and dancing naked, hope my junk doesn't get up in the frame. And this camera pans over, and the school teacher's tied naked to a post. Alright. And then the cops are trying to figure out what's going on, and he has two turntables with the same disco record, and he's trying... I don't know if he's trying to be a DJ and mix them appropriately. Then he tries to balance the heads on the records. I guess he's just being crazy for crazy's sake. And then he bites the woman tied to the post, I think. But the next time you see her, she doesn't have a bite mark. Maybe he was giving her ear nuzzles, and that's why she screamed. I mean, she was screaming in a, ow, he's biting me kind of way, not a, ew, 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 stop nuzzling me. I don't know. So, it's been 2 days now. You've got 2 dead students. You have the missing janitor guy, who's the number one suspect, and the missing teacher. And there's a montage of spinny paper, wham! And it says in, well, French, because it's somewhere in Canada, whatever the French stuff says, because I can't read it. But it's saying, 2 girls murdered, more spinny paper! Here's our main suspect, and it shows a recent picture of the guy, a full headshot of him going... I don't know where they got this picture. And then immediately it cuts to the police, who are in front of a bulletin board with a composite sketch of the guy. And they're motioning back and forth and, business. Why are you using a composite sketch? The newspaper has a recent picture of the dude. What? Ah! And then it cuts back to America. To the cop who investigated the original disco place where she was under the floor, that crime. He was so close. He was obsessed. He should be lieutenant by now. It's like, where was... None of this has been in the story until now. But suddenly he reads about, my God, 2 girls were butchered in Canada. It's our disco killer. What? Huh? Where are you drawing that connection? Well, he does, to be fair, he does, he's still using the name of the club owner, that he stole the passport from somehow. So, I guess that might be it, but he's just reading this Canadian paper for some reason, and is, my God, 2 girls were butchered in their dorm room. That reminds me of the disco killer for some reason. So he goes to Canada and forcibly inserts himself into the investigation. And one of the other teachers is spending the night at the school because reasons that there's a dorm there, so she can. And she wakes up in the middle of the night, and she wanders down the stairs. And I'm thinking dream sequence. She wanders into the basement, and she sees her friend laying naked on the floor, and she's, oh no, my friend laying naked on the floor. And she approaches her, and she steps on what looks like film stock, and gets electrocuted. Thud. I'm like, this isn't a dream sequence. It's weird. It's real. He was in the school's basement the entire time, and no one found him in the 2 or 3 days the police have been there investigating? Seriously? No one bothered going downstairs? It wasn't locked. She just walked down there. I forget how the hell she was even electrocuted. What? I mean, because the other naked woman's laying on the same floor that she stepped on that electrocutes. Ah! So our killer walks out, grabs like a patrolman's hat and stabs some other cop, security guard guy, and leaves. And the American cop, he's watching TV and he suddenly goes, "It's music. Music makes him kill." Where are you? How did you draw this conclusion? You seem to be right, but what? And he calls the Canadian cop and he's like, "Music makes him kill. See this disco show, like Soul Train or something? It's on TV. This is where he'll strike next." Is that the only place there is disco? He doesn't seem to be drawn to disco music. He seems to be compelled to kill because he hears it. Just happens to. Except his behavior in the basement with the severed heads well, whatever. But then he sees, oh my god, he's there on TV! And he strangles some woman at the club, and so we cut to the funeral of the 2 schoolgirls and the 1 teacher. And they give the eulogy. And the parish boy, or whoever he says, there will be snacks and refreshments held outside the church building before the procession leaves for the cemetery. And I'm thinking, there are snacks and refreshments outside the church building? Like, what? Did you set up a folding table on the sidewalk? So the camera pans out and I see cars, but I see no snacks. There were no snacks outside. So they get in the cars to drive the funeral procession thing. And there's this, and they come up to a car that has it's obviously the killer guy wearing a nun's habit for some reason. And like, "Oh, sister, please cut on in." And he rams the car, which kills the Canadian police guy, and then he rams the hearse, which spins around, spits a coffin out, and one of the schoolgirls' body goes floppity, 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 flop on the road. Which is cool. But her head is on. Maybe they sewed it on for the viewing, but I don't know. And then the Discopath gets out of his car and takes the time to take off the habit and the robe and thing, and then, "Oh, they're after me! Ho-ho!" And we have a whole Keystone Cop chase with the New York cop and the surviving Canadian cop chasing after him, shooting at him the entire time, missing every damn time, even though they are literally 10 feet away. I mean, it's not like he's a city block away and they're, damn, I missed. No, 10 feet. They fire at him more times than they should have bullets in the gun, but they miss him every single time. It's like, oh my god, you guys suck. So they chase him into a parking garage, and the Canadian police guy follows him up the parking structure, and the American police guy goes, because he's out of shape, I guess. And so the Canadian cop chases him up the building, misses him, misses every damn shot, even when they're both stopped and standing, again, 10 to 20 feet from each other. And the Discopath just swan dives off the roof. And there is a Yahoo! Not quite the Goofy scream, but something similar to that. Mixed between Goofy and Wilhelm. And the camera pans out, and you have a nice corpse with an exploded head and brain pieces lying all over the street, which was nice to see. That was cool. And the American cop has this guy who's like, ha, 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 got you, man, got you, justice is served. And the camera pans out and the credits roll, all 7 minutes of credits. But as the credits start rolling, the Discopath is standing on a window washer, the cable suspended window washer thing that hangs on the side of buildings so window washers can wash the windows. And he's doing his stare into the camera as the window, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell they're saying. Are we saying that he swan dived backwards off the top of a car park, a parking structure, landed on a window washer thing, survived, threw the window washer off, and the person who was dead on the ground with the exploded head was just some window washer? Number one, no. You're not going to swan dive backwards off the top of a car park and land in a window washer cradle and throw the other guy out. That doesn't make any sense. Two, the guy on the ground, are you telling me he didn't look up and see? You're right there, dude. I can see you. And three, there are no windows on a parking garage to wash.